Hello, football fans. The Big D is back and better than ever as we conclude 2024. Before I bring in Alice, please subscribe, like, and share the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, Happy Kwanzaa. I think I've got everyone. Also, check out the Big D podcast for the audio listeners, Spotify and Apple. So join me. As long as Jawan Jennings doesn't throw 3 interceptions and fumble and lose 2 fumbles, the winner of the PK League.
Thank you for the lovely introduction, Dylan. And that is back-to-back champion of the PK League. It was fun season. I love that. That's my favorite fantasy league to be in every year. We always keep it very competitive. We had, but by week before the playoffs, week going into the playoffs, we had 11 of our 12 teams in contention for a playoff spot this season. So it's great as long as, and I already told my opponent, my good buddy Ishmael, who had previously also been a back-to-back PK League champion and beat me in the championship of the first ever year of the PK League. Good buddy of mine. I told him I'm not benching Juwan Jennings. I'm gonna let the cards fall as they may. If he has, I'm up by 4 with JJ going tonight, and if he loses me 4 points, then hats off to Ishmael. He had a great year as well, but I'm gonna be rolling with my lineup, but all signs point towards, with his roster being finished, I get to take home that championship, and it feels good, man. I had a very successful year in fantasy football, if I say so myself. 2 championships, 2 other leagues where I was a runner-up, and then eliminated from the playoffs. Missed the playoffs of 1 out of 6 leagues, won 2 of them, and made the finals in 2 others. So, pretty good year, I will say, if I say so myself.
I'm filing a protest on the guillotine in the PK League. I should have been in the playoffs over you both times.
Hey, it's a tight race when it comes to the end of the playoff season, and it's a very competitive league. Both of those leagues are very competitive, and it's a lot of times fantasy football comes down to luck at the end of the day.
Yeah, I ended up losing on Guillotine League by 3,100 to a point, and the PK League by like 4 or 5 points.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantasy football, man. Every stat matters, every catch, every run. You never know when that one extra yard could be the difference.
Well, how about the Sunday night game between 2 rookie quarterbacks? And oh wait, we've got another. Who forgot they had timeout issues? Is Matt Eberflus coaching the Atlanta Falcons now?
Yeah, it's not Dan Quinn either. Well, obviously, we've seen some uh, infamous, failings when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons and years past, and it
Trust
seemed to
me,
be
the
in.
Atlanta Falcons have cost me more money than any other team in the NFL.
Yeah, it seems like even when you think things could be going right, they end up going wrong for you. I mean, I know Falcons fans all across the world thought that they won the game on that field goal attempt. It looked like it was going straight through the uprights and then just fell a couple yards short. And just kind of a series of unfortunate events for Falcons fans last night. That high snap over Bijan Robinson's head turned into a 21-yard loss, which counted towards this fantasy stats, which may have cost me another fantasy championship, but that's okay. But credit to Jaden Daniels. I mean, and that Washington Commanders offense. He really marched down the field. I mean, it took overtime, but he was able to pull what a 12-play 70-yard overtime drive, capped it off with that touchdown pass to Zach Ertz, and took home the W for Washington.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think people understand how well Jane Daniels has played. For a rookie in the fourth quarter overtime series, got one of the best pass ratings in football, if not the best. And I
Yeah.
mean, Washington was all over the place last night. Missing Marshall Lattimore. The offensive line was missing the center and right tackle. And every other play the Commanders made was either Jane Daniels running around, throwing, running, or the offensive line holding. I mean, I don't think I've seen that many, but it didn't matter. It could be 2nd and 22, 3rd and 15. Jane Daniels making plays,
Yeah,
and I mean, the touchdown throw at the end of the game, throwing to where only Zach Ertz can get the ball. I mean,
yeah,
Zach Ertz, I mean, I thought he was done. I mean, I thought he was what, Trey McBride's mentor in Glendale? Well, maybe Zach Ertz should have been maybe Trey McBride should have been Zach Ertz's touchdown mentor.
yeah, yeah. Honestly, I mean, credit to Trey McBride for finally finding the end zone in Week 17. That's been a long time.
Thank heavens Trey McBride didn't go Deontay from 2 years ago, but that's neither here nor there.
Exactly. But, I mean, the big thing at the end of the day is, Washington, got it done when they needed to. I mean, Jaden Daniels, like you mentioned, whether it was through the air or with his legs, I mean, we know he's such a strong dual threat quarterback that, it's really electrifying to watch him, run this Washington offense and, take his team into the playoffs for in his rookie year. I mean, and that's I think it's pretty well considered that Terry McLaurin is the wide receiver one in that offense, but he sure didn't look like it yesterday. I mean, he finished with 1 catch for 5 yards. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus is racking up 85 yards on 8 catches. So he did it really without even utilizing one of the most at least well-known receiving threats on that offense. Even Brian Robinson, I mean, he had 60 yards rushing, which was half of what Jaden Daniels ended up with in that game, and even got a couple goal line touches, vultured by Chris Rodriguez there in the fourth quarter. But it was really just a team effort when it came to really pulling it out when it mattered most.
And I mean, this Washington team feels so much different. Obviously, new ownership. We know what happened the previous owner. I mean, Dan Snyder might be the worst owner in professional sports. I mean, the owner in Carolina might be number two, but new ownership, fresh new ideas, and unlike the previous regime, the Commanders didn't spend big money on free agents. They got football players. They got a center, a pass rusher, Bobby
Yeah,
Wagner, and then of course Zach Ertz. I mean, they didn't make the big moves to get the high price free agent. They got good football players. You know what
yeah,
you need? Football players.
yeah,
Guess what? Albert Hainsworth did piddly poo for the Redskins, but this team right now. Dan Quinn. I mean, Dan Quinn's not going to win Coach of the Year. I think we know who's going to win it. When it's probably one or two guys. I mean, I've got a funny feeling of who my candidate would be, but we know the NFL media is idiotic. But
right.
I think the Commanders win the NFC East. I mean, they won't win it, but you know they won what? The what? 11-5 potentially could get a 6 seed. I mean, who would have thought that?
I know it's crazy, and you were highlighting a lot of the defensive guys, that they brought in, and looking at really the true effect. I mean, the biggest set that stands out to me from that game yesterday is how do you win football games as a defense? You get off the field. And what did they do on third down yesterday against the Atlanta Falcons? Atlanta went 2 for 10 on third down efficiency yesterday. That is how you win football games. That's how you get the ball back into the hands of your playmaking quarterback and, go on and not only get that win, which, really helps propel you towards the playoffs, but gives you that confidence. You want a close game. You want a close overtime game. Obviously, we know Atlanta's not the greatest team in the league, but racking up those wins in December, any December football win is going to be great for your franchise, unless you're the Jacksonville Jaguars and New York Giants when you're looking to maybe lock up a top draft pick. But if you're any sort of contention, going down the stretch of the season, those December and January football games are when it matters most. And getting a December victory under the belt this close to the playoff push is going to be huge for Jaden Daniels as a rookie and for the rest of that Washington Commanders football team.
And by the way, the Beltway's got two really good quarterbacks now,
Yeah,
not just Lamar, but Jane Daniels.
yeah,
But It seems like every week there's a major clock malfunction. Oh, clock. I don't know what to call it now. A clock issue,
Mismanagement.
and it bit the Atlanta Falcons at the end of both halves, but more importantly, at the end of the fourth quarter, where they got like, I mean, Falcons have 38 seconds, two timeouts left. Pennis throws a pass to Darnell Mooney, first down, and guess what the Falcons did not do?
Call timeout.
I mean, you get a first down inbounds with like 30 something seconds left. What would be my idea?
Call timeout. It's pretty
And the Falcons
straightforward.
failed. The
Yeah.
Falcons failed. We've all played Madden. You call timeout. The
Yeah.
Falcons failed to call timeout and let like 16, 17 seconds go off the clock. Pennis throws the next pass incomplete. Second down with 12 seconds left.
Yeah.
And then the Falcons' next play was ended up being a penalty, and Raleigh Patterson's forced to kick a 50-something yard field goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
What if the Falcons have 20 seconds left, one timeout, first down from like the 35, 36 yard line? They could
Yeah.
hit Drake London, they could hit Pitt, excuse me. They could even run the ball with B or throw like let her check down the B jab.
Yeah. There was 40 seconds left after that first down completion to Darnell Mooney. After the incomplete pass on the very next play, there was 17 seconds left.
Just
I
so
mean, there's so much you can do in that amount of space, especially when you're driving down the field. I mean, you're already at your own 44 after that play. I mean, it's crazy to me that you realistically just need to get 25 yards for a much more confident field goal, and I just don't understand how you don't call timeout there. It makes zero sense. We've, like you mentioned at the top of the show, we've seen it with Matt Eberflus. Honestly, I've seen it with Mike McDaniel in Miami sometimes, where his clock management has been very poor at the end of game or end of half situations. I saw it with the New York Jets against the Miami Dolphins just a couple weeks ago. The Jets had a chance to really just ice the clock and kick a field goal, and they ended up throwing a 4 yard pass and ran out of bounds and gave Miami the ball back, where we went on to win the game. It's crazy to me how at this level of football, we're talking the NFL. This isn't college. This isn't FCS. This isn't high school football. These are NFL head coaches who are getting paid millions of dollars to make these exact situations in December at the end of football games when it counts the most. And to see this mismanagement of time management and just timeouts and clock, it's shocking to see it at this level of football.
and it might have just knocked Atlanta out of the playoffs because now the Bucks have control of the NFC South and they play the Wolfless Saints this weekend. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, by the way, Baker Mayfield threw 5 touchdowns yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to be going up against that. Well, in the playoff picture sense, at least.
So now usually when I bring in a guest, they ask me the questions. Well, Alex is going to ask me the questions now.
Yeah. So we're going to be moving forward to our next topic here, and question number 2 on the docket is going to be related around the MVP race. I know in our last show we had talked a little bit about the MVP, and I had went on a little bit of a rant myself about how it's pretty much the most valuable quarterback award, and I sorry, I it's been pretty well known that there's been a couple main horses in the race, one or two specifically, who have been really leading the way throughout the back half of the NFL season. But one man has potentially emerged into the running, especially after a great performance yesterday in a game that ended up being close. That didn't necessarily look like it was going to be that close. That man we're talking about is Sam Darnold. He finished the day yesterday against the Green Bay Packers, 33 of 43, thrown 377 yards, 3 total touchdown passes. And my question for you, Dylan, we have seen a remarkable season from Sam Darnold. When at at the point of the season starting, we didn't even expect him to be the quarterback when they brought in with at least having JJ McCarthy there before his injury. So through all of what you've seen from Sam Darnold this season, has he done enough to enter and contend for this MVP race?
I think so. I think if not for the quarterbacks in Buffalo and Cincinnati, we'd be talking Sam Darnold as MVP right now.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I think people are picking and prodding Sam Darnold because he failed in New York and Carolina. Well, guess what? New York's got one of the worst owners in football. In Carolina, now that he who will not be named doesn't own the Commanders anymore, might be the worst owner in football. Sam Darnold has now been given a chance. If Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, and Kevin O'Connell believe in you, guess what? You can play.
yeah,
And Sam Darnold made plays. I mean, the two plays in the end of Minnesota game, he didn't throw to Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, or Justin Jefferson. He threw key passes to CJ Ham and Cam Akers.
yeah, yeah, and
And I
that's where I
mean,
was.
you saw at the end of the game what the teammates basically gave him a Gatorade bat or water bottle back.
Yeah, I saw that. And that's kind of where I was going to be going next with that too. Is obviously we have seen great great quarterback play from Sam Darnold this season. That's not to be argued. My next question there is going to be how much does having I think top two, if not top one wide receiver, one in the NFL on your team, kind of sway your opinion on if he should be getting as many accolades when it comes to even potentially being considered for the MVP. With Justin Jefferson as his top receiving route, do you think that changes the opinion of people at all, changes the narrative at all? Or do you think it's more of just Sam Darnold playing great football and it doesn't matter if he's thrown to Justin Jefferson or if he's thrown to Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, or any of these guys?
I don't think it hurts having Justin Jefferson, but I think at this point, we're talking about what kind of a year somebody's putting up.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's just I think that one of the big arguments. I mean, I think everyone knows that Josh Allen is up there at the top of the MVP races, along with Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Sam Darnold. Of course, we're talking about now, but you look at Josh Allen's targets, and obviously Josh Allen is a completely different player from Sam Darnold. With his physicality and able to just take over a football game by running you over. But he doesn't have, if you look at Buffalo's receiving room versus Minnesota's, for example, it's really not even a comparison. Do you give Josh Allen more credit for doing it without some of those superstars like some of these other quarterbacks have? Obviously, Joe Burrow, T. Higgins has had a great week this week. What Jamar Chase brings. Even Mike Gesicki has been a really positive addition to that offense. Little less to say when it comes to Lamar Jackson. I mean, obviously, having Derrick Henry helps your situation on keeping defenses honest, but he doesn't necessarily have an elite wide receiver option there. But still great pieces nonetheless. I mean, switching over to Josh Allen a little bit, do you think that helps his case more that he doesn't have such an elite receiving room?
I mean, be honest with you, I don't think it's really close to MVP right now. It's Josh Allen to lose. Yeah, the Bill. I mean, I expect Josh Allen to start next week against New England, but I don't think Josh Allen will pad his stick. That's
Right,
not that
right.
we can. Not that Bills fans care whether Josh Allen gets an MVP or not. They just want a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's what Bills fans have been looking for the past 50 years. But all right, well there you go. So I guess to recap, there, Sam Darnold is in the MVP race. He might not be at the top of it, but at least he's worth mentioning among these top quarterbacks. And one other non-quarterback that we may be talking about here shortly. It looks like I have to agree with you. I think Josh Allen's got to be at the top of anyone's list at this point in the season. I mean, what he's done at not only at the quarterback position, but just for the Buffalo Bills team. it seems like it's a different Bills team we're watching this year. I don't know. In years past, I've never really had a lot of confidence in the Bills to make that final push towards the Super Bowl and win those tough playoff games. I'm more confident than ever in the Buffalo Bills this season to contend with the Kansas City Chiefs. We've seen them, knock off the Chiefs earlier this season already, and if there was any year, for them to do it, I think this could be one of their strongest possibilities to be able to do it, and all of that comes from Josh Allen. But let's move forward. We got another topic to switch it up a little bit. Maybe the only player in the NFL who's not a quarterback who even has the potential, to be named in this MVP race is obviously Saquon Barkley. We've seen the man hurdle people backwards. We've seen him rush for or have 300 total yards of offense in a single game. I mean, we've seen Saquon Barkley do it all this year. The only thing that we really haven't seen Saquon do is break the NFL single season rushing record. And that's where we're going to be focusing our conversation here. The Philadelphia Eagles have nothing to play for. We do not expect the Philadelphia Eagles to be putting too much faith or too much effort, I guess you could say, in this upcoming game. But with Saquon Barkley 100 yards short of Eric Dickerson's a single season NFL rushing record, do you think the Eagles will play Saquon next week and give him the opportunity to break that record?
I know fantasy owners would want it. I know Philly fans would want it. I know Giant fans would probably think, what do you know what can't happen this year if Saquon Barkley breaks one of football's most hallowed records against his former teams. But there is not a chance in double L that Saquon Barkley plays next week. The Philadelphia, yes, Saquon Barkley and the Eagles would love him to break the single season rushing record. But you know what's bigger than any record in football?
Super Bowl?
Yeah. And you know what happened? And you know what happened? What game is on the line this week? Week 18, and the Eagles can't move up, can't move back in this game. So it's an utterly meaningless game.
Yeah.
Philly has played 12 straight weeks, and Saquon's been worked a lot. And I mean, yeah, he could get 100 yards and 3 carries, but what if he twists an ankle or sprains his knee and is out for the or limited in the playoffs?
Yeah.
The Eagles' quest does not mean Saquon Barkley plays next week. I don't expect the Chiefs to play Mahomes, Kelsey, or anybody big. I don't expect some of these teams with nothing to play for, playoff teams without much to play for, will play anyone. I don't. Saquon Barkley is more valuable to the Eagles than almost anybody on the team, including the quarterback, as we saw where the third stringer was throwing touchdown passes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. I think a big part about it, even earlier this year, Saquon was asked about when it comes to records versus, individual accomplishments versus team accomplishments. And he said, it's great. I think when he had that, 350-yard game or whatever it was, obviously it's great to break records. It's great to have that individual success. But he even said the biggest thing that matters the most to him is the team and making sure that, they're in as best of a situation to contend for a Super Bowl as possible. So I think you kind of heard it from the horse's mouth already. I would be shocked if Saquon Barkley is even wearing a jersey next week. It's a shame because it's set up for such a great storyline playing against the New York Giants, his former team, being able to potentially break the record. Like you said, he could probably do it in 3 carries. But it's just not worth it. He is the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles will not win a playoff game if they don't have Saquon Barkley behind Jalen or behind whoever the quarterback is running the football. It's a great storyline, and to be able to do it against the Giants, I think would, especially a division rival who you got Saquon Barkley from in the first place, it would be such a great jab for the Philadelphia Eagles to take, but I think everyone knows it's not worth it for them. You got to rest up. You got to get healthy. Obviously, they've been dealing with injuries all season, and you really have to be able to take. You really have to take this as an extra bye week for your main guys to really be able to focus up, get healthy, and feel good going into the playoffs. And the other thing that really kind of pushes it over the top for me as well is, when you look at like receivers who are trying to break records and things like that, or even not even necessarily break records. I mean, you see, especially in week 18, receivers who are looking to get incentive bonuses. If they need to hit a certain receiving yard mark or touchdown mark, to get an extra $1 million or something like that. It's a lot easier to 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 draw up a play for a wide receiver to get X amount of yardage without putting him in as much harm's way. If you have, say, just for example, Justin Jefferson, the Vikings are not playing for anything, but Justin Jefferson's 50 yards away from breaking a record. It's a lot easier to get Justin Jefferson looks that aren't going to put him in harm's way. You're not going to throw him a slant across the middle running into a linebacker, but you can maybe give him a bubble screen where he's out wide, he can scoot out of bounds. The position of running back in the NFL is the most damaging position. They are taking hits, whether it's carrying the ball or whether it's pass blocking on every single play, and it just isn't. There's too much that could go wrong playing Saquon Barkley in this football game. So I definitely think I agree with you. I'm sure he would love to break the record. I'm sure the Eagles would love for him to break the record, especially to do it against the New York Giants. But they won a Super Bowl, and there's no way they win a Super Bowl without Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, and I think I would probably keep Saquon Barkley and Saran wrap and like big boy. We're gonna save you for wild card weekend.
Yeah, exactly. I really think it's the only option. But let's move forward on that. This is going to be interesting to see your take here, Dylan. I'm very curious about this question here. I want to know, we've seen a lot of teams and a lot of players who have exceeded expectations, hit their mark, or even performed below expectations. And I'm curious, Dylan, on who you think the most disappointing player in the league, in your opinion, has been this season.
This award is probably easier than the MVP this year. I can't believe I looked at this guy's stats and I couldn't believe what's happened this year. But it's got to be Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
mean, Kyler Murray. I mean, I looked at Kyler Murray's stats this year: 17 touchdowns, 11 interceptions.
Yeah,
So not good enough. And I mean, I understand Kyler's different and all. Plays video games. Maybe he's played too much of the new Warzone, Modern War, or Black Ops 6. But Kyler's been bad this year. And I
yeah,
mean, finally, and it's not weapons. I mean, Trey McBride looks like he'll be the next great tight end. Marvin Harrison, James Conner. I mean, Trey McBride finally called his first touchdown. I mean, Kyler this year has been very disappointing. And
yeah,
I thought he was a top 10 quarterback. And maybe I expected too much from him. But Kyle's made way too many mistakes, even against the Rams. I mean, interception, and then what happened at the end of the game? Interception.
yeah, yeah.
What,
Yeah,
by the way, where is Kyler Murray running the ball right now?
couldn't tell you. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, honestly, there's been a lot of big names who have had disappointing years. I mean, yes, Kyler Murray, has been a shell of his expectations that, we've placed on him this season. But, look at Christian McCaffrey. I mean, obviously, it's hard to. I think it's a little different when you bring injuries into account when it comes to most disappointing player in the league. But, I think we finally kind of got a glimpse of what we could see a full healthy Christian McCaffrey look like, and it was so dominating. Then to come back this season and just not, I mean, go back to the injury concerns that we had on him in the first place. I mean, I think it was he was almost the consensus 101. I mean, I know there was plenty of fantasy leagues that kind of mixed things up a little bit, but most people had Christian McCaffrey as the 101 going into fantasy football this season. And just to see you got Christian McCaffrey for what, 2 or 3 weeks, and I don't even think he scored more than 12 fantasy points in those. I mean, it's just to me, the amount of expectations and hype we had on Christian McCaffrey this season, and what we got out of him, which was pretty much next to nothing. I think he's a contender there, with Kyler Murray. And as much as I hate to say it, man, Tyreek Hill, like, I know, Tua missed, now I guess 5 games this season due to injury, and even Tyreek had a great game yesterday with Tyler Huntley throwing him the ball. But even with Tyreek there, it just seems like, and I know he has the torn ligament in his wrist, which I have to account for, for Tyreek Hill. But even still, he's been a shell of the Tyreek Hill that we've seen even in Miami. It's not that he's not playing with Mahomes. He's had his best seasons of his career with Tua in Miami. And this has just been a shell of the Tyreek Hill that we've been seeing over the last couple of years.
Yeah, talk about a first round this year. I mean, CMC hurt, CeeDee Lamb until yesterday, good, really
Yeah.
good. Tyreek Hill, disappointed.
Yeah.
I mean, Amon Ra's been fine. He's Justin Jefferson. But Brees Hall, where have you been for me lately? Oh, by the way, the Jets. How do you? I know it was final score was 40-16 or whatever it was. Come on, Jets, you're better than that. Put up your big boy panties, big boy pants, and not let the Bills put up 40.
I mean, it took Tyrod Taylor to come in for them to score any points.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers couldn't get his 500 touchdown pass.
God, it's crazy. I was gonna echo with Garrett Wilson. Like, yes, Garrett Wilson hasn't had a horrible season, but I mean, he was getting picked at the back end of round one in a lot of fantasy football drafts. I know we did in our PK league. Um, so it's there was a lot of players this year who, there was a very high ceiling when it came to expectations that fell short. I definitely agree with you on Kyler Murray, just from a pure football perspective, because it just doesn't seem like, I feel like we have high expectations from Kyler because we've seen it and we've seen what he can do. And when he doesn't, and when he's not doing the things that we've seen him be so good at in the past, it's even more frustrating. But man, there's been a lot of big names this year who have just, not hit the mark or even really come close to it. But I guess that really brings us down to our last topic here. Kind of staying in the, we were talking a little bit about the AFC East here, which has been a very interesting division this year to say the least. But the New England Patriots are in a very interesting spot with Gerard Mayo. I mean, it's got to be hard to replace Bill Belichick. He's one of the best to ever do it. And I really see where New England went with Gerard Mayo to keep that Patriots culture and keep that mindset, to try and keep it from within instead of bringing in an outside perspective. But I'm just looking at this team 3-13. Drake May is a baller. We've seen Drake May play well, but there's just not enough pieces around him to help. And what I really want to know from you, Dylan, is what do we do with New England's coaching? Is Gerard Mayo the guy to move move the New England Patriots moving forward?
Honestly, I think Jerron Mayo, after this Sunday's game against the Bills, will no longer be head coach of the Patriots, no matter if they get the number one pick or not.
Yeah.
Doing, and this is shocking from from a team that Bill Belichick coached here for 20 something years, but New England's got to make a change. Jerron Mayo has clearly lost the team. I mean, they didn't just lose against the Chargers; they were embarrassed. I
Yeah.
mean, LA beat them 40-7.
Yeah.
Wait, what did I say? The Chargers beat the Patriots by what scoreline?
40-7.
I had the double take. I mean, New England's defense, which has always been a strength under Belichick, has fallen off a cliff this year. And I mean, if Gerard Mayo's coaching the Patriots, they're going to be bad. I mean, the Patriots have to get Mike Vrabel and bring back Josh McDaniels.
Yeah,
Otherwise, Drake May is going to end up getting killed every single Sunday. The Patriots have to get linemen, have to get wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, and have to reimagine this team. Because guess what? How do the Patriots make a trade and get Jalen Polk and Baker, the UCF wide receiver, on seeing the field when the rookie corner from LA is making plays? Oh yeah, and Lamb McConkey, who you traded with LA, just stuffed it. He absolutely hum, hum, hum.
he did. I know. I was watching that game, and it was just like it doesn't even. It looks like it's like scout team out there where you're just playing like it looks like the Chargers weren't even really trying that hard, and they were still just dominating that football game. The interesting thing for me is a lot of times when coaches or when teams make a change at the head coaching spot, you look at the quarterback situation and it's like, okay, do you have a franchise guy? Which a lot of the time you're not firing a head coach if you have a franchise quarterback. Obviously, situations vary, including this one. Or is it like, okay, do you have a guy who, is good for now, but we're going to be looking down the line for his replacement? Or do you not have a guy at all? The New
Yeah,
England Patriots
and
are in it. Yeah.
And look at the other side. I mean, everyone wanted to pick apart Justin Herbert. Herbert wasn't the problem. They just needed a head coach.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. What did the Chargers do? They got Jim Harbaugh, one of the 3 or 4 best football coaches in the world.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and the Chargers made the playoffs.
Yeah. You're exactly right, and pretty much where I'm going with that is, the Patriots are in an interesting spot because a lot of times when you make a head coaching hire, it's like, okay, well you're now hiring a head coach who's inheriting a quarterback, and a lot of head coaches they want their guy and they want to make sure that they want to feel like it's the team that they built and they're bringing. But Drake May is not. I mean, I can't imagine the New England Patriots would be moving on from Drake May, at least definitely not next season. I mean, he has definitely proven that he has what it takes to be a starting caliber quarterback and even potentially better than that in the NFL. So, it really kind of I think makes New England an interesting spot because yes, it is a project. You already listed off 6 different position groups that they need upgrades on to make themselves a competitive roster. So it kind of gives that coach coming in, if they do in fact move on from Gerard Mayo, and really gives them an interesting project because you can still create and mold a team with your identity and bring in pieces and bring in guys that play the style of football that you want, but you have a quarterback sitting there that is very capable of getting the job done, and even as a rookie has really shined as really the only bright spot on this New England Patriots team this season. So I mean, it's a really interesting situation if Robert Kraft does decide to move on from Gerard Mayo and look to bring someone else in, whether it is a Mike Vrabel who's obviously been with the franchise before, bringing in Josh McDaniels with him, or even going a completely different route and bringing in a whole new outside perspective. We know the Patriots like to keep things in house, but who knows? Maybe this is a new era. They're obviously, since Tom Brady left, have not had any sort of success. So maybe it's time to go in a different direction and really try and bring someone in from the outside. But it's just an interesting. It's an interesting spot because, like I was saying, if you've got a quarterback who you can definitely build around, and other than that, it's really just morphing that roster and upgrading that roster because that is not an NFL roster. The wide receivers in that room, the running backs from Andre Stevenson can't hold on to the football. It's just a very weak roster, and you got a good quarterback. You got a quarterback that has some potential, but you got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, New England, and if New England got the #1 pick, sure, it's not the greatest draft, but they could get Travis Hunter. They could get Mason Graham, the D tackle from Michigan. Get
No,
McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona.
no. If you're the New England Patriots and you end up getting,
Or they could trade back and
you
get
have to.
79 picks.
Yeah. Unfortunately for the Patriots, even if they do end up with the number one pick, there's really not a number one pick guy coming out of this draft. I
There-
mean,
There's
obviously,
there's definitely not a Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, or even
but
the quarterbacks from last year's draft. I mean, you could argue the top three quarterbacks are better than anybody in this year's draft.
yeah, but it's still the luxury of having that number one overall pick. You can still call 31 football teams and say, you can have any guy you want. Got to give us, a pretty price to pay. And it's not going to be the compensation that you get from a Trevor Lawrence year, of course, or even a CJ Stroud year, Bryce Young CJ Stroud year, or, anything like that, but a Joe Burrow year, of course. But still, teams will pay a pretty penny for the number one pick in the draft, knowing that no one can jump ahead of them and pick someone else. In my opinion, there are way too many pieces on that New England Patriots roster that they need to pick. You get as much as you can from that number one pick, and hopefully you can move down somewhere into the top 10, top 15, where you can still get a guy who's high up on your draft board. But if I'm the Patriots, there's not one player in coming out of college football that's going to fix this franchise. You move out of that pick.
All right, Alex. Thanks for hopping on. Wish you the best. Hopefully, Juwan Jennings doesn't get any negative points. And heck, you know what? The Dolphins beat the Wolford Jets next week, and the Broncos lose. Oh, by the way, Denver's I think 10-point favorite, 9 or 10-point favorite. That's what we're calling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting week next week. The Chiefs owe us though. We beat New England a couple years back to give the Chiefs the number one seed in the playoffs, and I'm hoping that they return the favor with us next week. But first things first, we got to take care of business against the Jets. But you know what? It's been such a rocky season going into Week 18. With honestly, not that. If you told me at the beginning of the season that going into Week 18 we would have to beat the Jets and the Chiefs would have to beat the Broncos, I would have taken that with a firm shake of your hand. So, we got a chance. It's we're gonna need some help there, but we'll see how it goes. But thanks for having me on, Dylan. As always, it's been a pleasure, and you know how it is. Fins up, baby.